Hey, friends, it's Peggy Hall back with you from thehealthyamerican.org. And I've got a friend back with me, Dr. Frederick Graves. He has appeared on this show many times because he is the man who wrote the course that I took that helped me in my legal battles, and it is called How to Win in Court. We're going to go deeper than that today because Dr. Graves is going to tell you why law school basically well, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Dr. Graves, but I would say that people can learn more from your course in a shorter period of time and have a greater impact than spending well over $100,000 in 2 years going to law school. And I know you're going to tell us your experience. So welcome to the show. And I know you would like to open with a few personal words that you've actually written. So why don't you take it away?
Oh, if I may, just one thing out of little book of poetry called Word War. And this is just part of the longer whole bunch of poems in here, but this is just a phrase I saw just a moment ago when I was getting ready. When will we use peace? Put an end to war. Fight with words instead of bombs and guns and blood. When statesmen praise high principle and teach the rule of law, instead of pandering to partisans and slinging ugly mud.
Oh, that is so timely.
I wanted to say this so simply. It's so much fun. I appreciate you so much. I made some excerpts here that I'll be talking about also in Tampa on the 6th of January of all days. Contracts, for example. We all went to contracts class. We had to go there. And we read, I could have grabbed one of my contracts books. Just one moment.
Well, while you're doing that, Dr. Graves, I want everybody to understand that on January 6th, yes, how about that date? Dr. Graves is doing a live workshop, a full day workshop in Tampa, Florida. And unfortunately, I'm not going to be there in person. I'm just talking about your workshop here, Dr. Graves, as you're getting your materials together. So we will let you know how you can enroll. There are just maybe a couple of dozen seats left. It's filling up quickly. Why? Because people want to learn practical, actionable steps that they can take to actually preserve. I'm going to go big here, Dr. Graves, our constitutional republic. We have a superior form of a political system in our country that many people badmouth. And I understand because of the corruption that we've seen, the hogwashing, as I call it. But friends, there is no superior alternative out there. So we want to go back to our principles. We want to teach those. That's why the hogwashers have gotten away with it. People are not educated as to the power that they have and as to our form of government. So if you want to learn that, you want to be empowered, encouraged, if you want to meet like-minded people who are standing up for justice, if you want to get some action steps, y'all are asking me, what can I do, Peggy? You can go to Tampa on January 6th of all days. Let's really turn that into a true form of empowerment. And tell us a little bit more, Dr. Graves, what you've got going on. I know you've got some excerpts that you want to read as well.
It's really, I'm so excited. We have people coming from Ontario, Washington, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Texas, Oklahoma, all over the place. This is my contracts book. It's cases and materials and contracts. Look how thick it is.
That's what you had in law school. You had to study.
one of many books that we had to read. But we followed what's called the Langell Method. It was named after a professor at Harvard who had the idea that the way to teach people that want to be lawyers is have them read all these old cases. So they're very tedious. If you were to try to imagine that anybody age 12 to 18 or whatever would sit and read any of this in this book, you probably need to be examined by professionals, because we both know that no teenager, and certainly no person in elementary school, is going to read this. It's just tedious. But I read them. I read all these books. And then a few years ago, somebody invented this thing called the internet. And now I want to tell you just a few stories real quickly, just to show you how that what has been hidden from us, whether it's been done intentionally or negligently, is really very simple. Here's a famous contracts case called Hawkins versus McGee. It was out of New Hampshire, 1929. A fellow he had a scar on his hand. So he went to a doctor. The doctor took some skin off the man's back, who happened to have a very hairy back, and now he had hair on his hand, and he sued for damages. It's a story. It's not complicated. It could be put in video form with a talented animator. Here's Hadley versus Baxendale. I've mentioned so many times. A fella had a mill wheel shaft broke. He hired a guy to fix the mill wheel shaft. Took too long, and the guy that owned the mill was all bent out of shape because he couldn't grind corn, so sued. It's a story. It's not rocket science. Here's another one. Frigalement Importing Company versus BNS International Sales. The whole case was over what is a chicken. That's what this case was about. Was it a broiler chicken or a stewing hen? And I had to go to law school to study this. But you see now, with the internet and with the ability to do amazing animations, to share this not only with children, but 24-hour, 7 days a week, online TV cable channel sponsored by General Motors and probably some pharmaceutical companies.
Let's get them to foot the bill for something good for once.
Why not? 24/7, anybody that's having a problem, they came home, their children were taken, they've been accused of a crime, they're terrified, and here's free legal education that should have been ours, I don't know how many thousand years ago. Here's another one, company Carhill versus Carbolic Smoke Ball. People invented they held out this smoke ball would cure the flu. And there was a lawsuit about it. It was a story. It wasn't rocket science. You don't have to be a genius to do any of this. Hamer versus Sidway, Feldhaus versus Benway, Lucy versus Zimmer, Kirksey versus Kirksey. They're just stories about people. And yet somehow, whether I say it was intentional or negligent, the legal profession would have us believe that you have to be really, really smart to go to law school because it's really, really complicated. Well, it isn't. Here's a very famous case, Paulsgraf versus Long Island Railroad. An old lady was trying to get on the train. Somebody exploded some fireworks. Somebody bumped into one of these trailers that was stacked with luggage. She got hurt. It was a case. She sued. And the outcome was just simply common sense. So you put all this together, like we talked about last time that you allowed me to share. The rules of evidence. Why should we allow somebody to say that somebody said something and therefore I have to go to prison for 20 years because somebody said something? That person that said it is not here. He's not in the courtroom. I can't cross-examine him. I don't know whether he said it or not. Maybe they made it up. This does not require a great amount of gray matter to understand this stuff. What really stumps me is why hasn't somebody before me come along and questioned the American people and asked the American people, why are you putting up with this? Why are you not demanding to learn these things if, as I say, they're really simple? And if they were complicated, then after 26 years, I've had this course on the website. 26 years.
I want to show that. Yeah.
People are learning this stuff. So we are determined to get public justice education out there for you. We want to get it into the home schools, and we want to get it into the private schools, and then eventually into public schools. We want to get a publication out there, Justice Magazine. We also have the website justicemagazine.com. And we also want to get that 24-hour, 7-day-a-week Justice channel. People died for your right to know these things. People died for your right to run this country. It's supposed to be a government of the people. Let me see.
Yeah.
Of the people,
Mm-hmm.
by the people, and for the people. Not for the corporations, not for the politicians, not for the political parties, uh, but by the people. But when we have a populace that has been either intentionally or negligently deprived of these simple truths that I've proven for 26 years, an eighth grader can learn, then I think it's time for all of us to be up in arms and make up our mind. It is time to support this mission of the American Justice Foundation, which I don't get anything from that. I don't make a dime from American Justice Foundation. Anybody would want to try to attack me, will they lose? Because it's totally a nonprofit charitable trust dedicated to giving you and your children what you should have had years ago, what you should have been taught in elementary school and high school. And we're determined to do it. We're going to talk about it in Tampa at the West Shore Grand Hotel. It's a beautiful hotel. And as I say, we have people coming from all over the country. I think there's 18 chairs left. And I hope people will come and show up. And I appreciate you so much for, number one, for understanding that this is important, and understanding, I believe that you do, that when this begins to roll, when we actually begin to make progress with this, and it's not just a Telegram group here or a website here, but it actually is happening out there in the mainstream, then I think you agree that it's going to be a good thing. Do you not?
Oh, absolutely, Dr. Graves. One of the main principles in the work that I do is education. So connection, education, action. And when we were doing our little get together, you and I were catching up a few days ago, something you said is the enemy is ignorance. And so the solution to ignorance is education, is knowledge. And I'm not talking about, the beautiful degrees on your wall or the 2 years and, countless thousands of dollars for law school. We're talking about knowledge. And Dr. Graves wants to get this knowledge at the very beginning levels. Friends, you know that the reason why we're in the predicament we're in right now, a large reason is ignorance. It's fear. They go hand in hand. But I firmly believe it's because of the breakdown of our educational system. And think of that word, system. It's set up to fail. It's designed to fail. There are superior learning alternatives that don't require, and I know I've had all sorts of objections and I've answered them many times. And I will grant that there will be a minority that may not ever choose homeschooling for their children. I get that, which is why this program is all the more important. It can be done as videos, cartoons, handbooks, the information to help bring this knowledge to young people and all ages, I'll just put it that way, but to take this knowledge and information and the educational program that Dr. Graves has created online, but to deliver it in a way that people of all ages can understand. This is and you're speaking about it much more eloquently than I am, but this is what Dr. Graves is about. A magazine, maybe like a 24/7 channel where people can watch and be empowered to learn about their rights, learn about the law, not be intimidated. Dr. Graves, I got my bachelor's degree in political science. I wanted to be an attorney. And in the meantime, I did some international travel and I ended up going to graduate school instead of law school. And I have always had this desire to stand for justice, to just, for heaven's sake, have people follow the law. And if you don't like the law, throw it out and get a better one.
Yes.
And bring these laws under scrutiny in our judicial branch to review whether or not they're constitutional. To me, it's like a no-brainer. But removing civics from our education system, and it's really the 24/7 propaganda of the government knows best, Who are you to question? And then there are many lovely, healthy Americans that have gone to court, that have been burned in court because they were ignorant of the law, of the procedures. And I just wanted to give another shout out to your program. So give me just a moment here, friends. If you can't join Dr. Graves in person on January 6th, let's redeem that date. Then what I would like you to do is go over to thehealthyamerican.org. I've done this program. Let me know in a comment if you've done it as well. Instead of $100,000 you could spend on law school, this is less than $300. And it would be great if you went through the Healthy American, click on how to win in court. And then there is an entire online program where you can be educated. Tell us just real quickly, Dr. Graves, I know there are so many wonderful components that include quizzes and videos step by step. You don't even let me go to the next phase until I've mastered the first one. And I really like your very clear, methodical way of teaching. You talked about rules of evidence. I also am going to interrupt myself. One of the most important things that I learned preparing for my case was looking for previous cases that were adjudicated in the appellate court, and why that creates a precedent that must be followed by the lower courts. Now, unfortunately, in my case, this is a brand new scenario, so there were no appellate rulings. However, the principle is sound, and that could make the difference between having a success or a loss. So tell us a little bit more about some of those top highlights, and then we'll go back to what's happening in Tampa.
Oh, well, all right. It's just that every case stands on elements, just like H2SO4 has hydrogen, sulfur, and oxygen. Take away the sulfur, you have water. You don't have sulfuric acid anymore. Every case, whether it's a criminal case or a civil case, I don't recall that being taught in law school, and yet it's the key to everything. Once you know what the elements are that have to be proven, either you're proving it as a plaintiff or you're defending it as an accused criminal or a defendant in a civil case, my goodness, it's not difficult. And so these things are just so easy. And I hope that you're telling people that it's easy. You're a very clever person, but I hope that you would agree with me that you don't have to be all that clever to understand these things. They're really, really simple. There's a lot to it, but none of it is rocket science.
And you take, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just want to say, having gone through this course, you take people through it step by step, and evidence rules made easy, how to object, the key to winning, and then I love this one, how to control lawyers, how to control judges, how to use affidavits. That's something that's been very popular in our community, how to argue effectively. My husband would say that I do that pretty well. How to get the court orders, to file motions, pleadings in general. Friends, the reason I'm showing this to you is because Dr. Graves breaks it down step by step. You feel empowered, even if you have an attorney like I do. Like, now I know what's going on, and I was an active participant. I didn't make the mistake of just turning everything over and not understanding what was going on. And I need to say something else about this. Something that is my own personal pet peeve is the ranking of professions in our society, that somehow a surgeon is a more valuable person than the guy who fixes your flat tire. Well, if you've ever had a flat tire on the freeway, you'll say that guy who fixes your flat tire is the most important person right there for you. So this ranking of professions has never sat well with me. I think everybody has been blessed differently and has gifts to share. And this is what I love about the information that you provide. Everyone can benefit from it. I don't want anybody to be intimidated thinking, well, I didn't finish school and I never was really good at studying. No, it's not like that at all. You're here, you have an open mind, you want to learn. And even if, and I hope this is the case, that you won't ever have to go to court, feeling empowered and understanding what's going on. I cover so many cases. In fact, I've got another video coming up about the Supreme Court of the United States just saying that Colorado cannot take Trump off the ballot. Friends, when you follow along with these cases, you'll be able to understand what is a stay, what is a, injunction, all of these things you'll learn more about, speaking about evidence and motions. You'll be more fluent in the language. And even if you don't go to court, and I hope you don't, you'll be able to understand and participate in more of the cases and the observations and things. So that's what I have to say about that. I wanted to give a shout out to that course. Let's turn our attention, though, to your broader picture, which is public justice for all.
Absolutely. So that's where we created the American Justice Foundation, Peggy. And the website is americanjusticefoundation.com. There's a big red button there. If you go there, click the big red button, then we'll sign you up for the course. If the big red button isn't there, then that means that all the seats are filled and we took the big red button down. But it's americanjusticefoundation.com. And the place is the West Shore Grand Hotel. It's a beautiful hotel right there on Kennedy Boulevard, not far from the airport. There's free shuttle service to the airport. There's free parking if you drive. And there's a breakfast buffet at 7 in the morning, and we're going to start at 8 o'clock. We'll start getting to know each other around 8 o'clock, have a little orientation. 8:30, we're going to start learning things that
Here we go.
You don't know. And we're going to go until maybe 8 o'clock in the evening if people are still interested in learning. But the goal is to promote this idea, really, that it doesn't make sense for the American people not to know what America is really all about. And what America is really all about has nothing to do with politics. It has nothing to do with religion. It has to do with a plan, a set of rules and principles that you weren't taught. And frankly, many of those rules and principles we weren't taught in law school either. But we're going to talk about them. We're going to teach them on January 6th in Tampa. And I hope many people will come who are interested in learning not only how to win in court, that's important, but we're also going to have a focus of this on the foundations of American justice. We talk about that. I've got a class ring here. It's got the scales of justice. Oh, you can't see it.
There we go. Mm-hmm.
A little bit. Okay.
There you go.
There we go. So we talk about, that. We've seen that all our lives. But I try to remind people that those scales have a base. The scales are standing on something. It's not just one party versus the other party. There's a foundation that is not understood. It's in the old books that somehow God made me read. So I will be sharing that, God willing. I live that long. My health holds out, and it's going to be a wonderful day. We're going to have fun. There'll be coffee and tea and treats and everything. And it's a beautiful hotel, and you're right there across from a big shopping mall. And Tampa's wonderful. There's great places to eat. And if you stay an extra day and go to Busch Gardens, have a wonderful time. But the big deal there is we're going to lay the foundations that should have been laid for everyone in this country in school before you ever graduated from high school. And hopefully we'll get enough people to understand this. And with your help too, Peggy, we'll have more people understand this, and we'll get the support that we need so that we can hire the staff and get this ball rolling, because it should have been rolling hundreds of years ago.
Well, I love what you've got planned here. It is multi-action, and I just want to, so I like your tagline, Make America Wise Again. And then it's a very straightforward plan: school programs, public, private, and home schools, how to win in court, of course, the program I was just focusing on, a magazine called Justice. Yeah, how fantastic is that? Educate people that are, sitting around in the doctor's waiting room, or just picking it up at the newsstands to have information. That's fantastic. The Justice Channel is your vision of having 24-hour programming for small children, for adults. There could be the crime shows, game shows, even better, entertainment that educates and education that entertains. And I would add to that empowers. I love the board game. Go ahead.
For free.
For free. That's the beauty of it. All of these legal references. And I love your vision. This is such a great example of taking action. These last several days, I've been doing videos with inspiring people that have faced challenges. We all do in our life, some very serious setbacks. And yet they were able to look at their situation and say, where can I go from here? This has happened. Here we are. These are the circumstances. Now what can I do? And I think that's the most important thing for all of us looking ahead. Let's feel empowered, encouraged, connected. You're ticking all the boxes of my own principles here, getting connected, being educated, and taking action. So friends, as we wrap up here, 3 action steps you can take right now. You can share this video. Number 1, share this video with people that you know. Maybe they're already in Florida and you're like, hey, you should go to this event. It's in Tampa. You're going to meet like-minded people. You've been belly aching about, what can I do? Here's something you can do. So that would be a second action step. If you have the means and resources and time to travel, that would be the other. A third step would be to check out what Dr. Graves has on board. I would add a fourth step if you would pray for the success. I pray in advance for gratitude, knowing that it's going to have an impact. You already are. And I'm all about solutions. And this is so important, especially for people that have felt downtrodden. The last few years have really taken a toll on a lot of people, losing their jobs, making changes geographically, health challenges, financial challenges. This is something that you can actually participate in. It's the underpinnings of our political system and these shared values. So I'll give you the last word here, Dr. Graves.
No, you've said it. You've said it. Our values, who are we? We say we're Americans. Who are we? And I don't think that the lawyers should and the judges should be the ones that define who we are. I think we need to understand these things, the principles, not personalities, principles. That's what makes the difference. That's what makes right and wrong. How do we know the difference between right and wrong? And I think we need those tools and that understanding so that we can make that choice between right and wrong for ourselves, for our nation, and most importantly, I believe, for our children.
Absolutely. I had one other quote from you. In addition to, the enemy is ignorance, so the solution is education and knowledge. But yes, it's we need to understand, learn, and uphold these principles that make civilization possible. Mm-hmm. That is such a broad statement. And it's so true. We want to live in a civilized society. So there are truths that we need to know. And this is what Dr. Graves is going to be focusing on in Tampa. He does so in his class online. And I know that I'm going to have you back to talk more. This is a personal interest of mine, and I wish you all the best. And thank you again for coming on board. Friends, I will have a link for you to the website where you can enroll. Also a phone number. Dr. Graves said I could give that out if you would like to call and enroll that way. And stay tuned with me, because I also have another live stream coming up, and that is going to be another court case. This is the U.S. Supreme Court. And we need to be able to understand what's going on, follow what's going on, and stay empowered. Thank you so much, Dr. Graves. Have a great rest of your afternoon and evening. Friends, I'll see you in the very next broadcast.